Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is a screencast-o-matic presentation for the second half of the warm-ups for the first cycle of quarter two. Before I get started, please let me encourage you once again to open up to the correct template for the warm-ups and remember to write down the questions and the answers in full and to put them in a different colored format. And please remember to hit submit on time by the deadline in order to receive full credit. Let's go ahead and get started with the first question of the day from Monday and Tuesday from 11:16 and 11:17. How have political parties in our government changed and developed over time? This is from the lesson that we did in class, basically on the essence of the roles and functions of political parties and identifying their structure and how they changed over time due to different types of policies and, of course, the context and backdrop of history. So let's go ahead and look at this. So understanding political parties does serve a purpose. Parties developed over time in America to organize voters and to win elections. In their very basic and most general definition, political parties are meant to consummate majorities in government and to win and implement their policies and ideals. Now, originally, the United States was a country with no parties at all. In fact, if you remember during times of the Constitution, there were just little factions that essentially argued about the size, shape, and scope of government, but there weren't parties per se. In fact, George Washington, the first president of the United States, was not part of any political party. Now, of course, if you want to get technical here, the original top two parties that we've had in our nation are the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and they did argue about the role of government, especially after the Constitution as well. The Federalists wanted a strong executive and believed in big government, and of course, some would say that the Anti-Federalists were champions of small government or state government. I guess in many ways you could say that the Democrats of today are the Federalists of our time, and of course, the Republicans are the Anti-Federalists. Now, Democrats in particular have developed over time, although they originated first, starting in the mid-1800s. They used to champion issues like Indian removal under Andrew Jackson, Manifest Destiny under Presidents James K. Polk, and of course others in the later 1800s. And of course, they won popular support. Many people call them the First People's Populist Party. And Republicans, on the other hand, however, started during the Civil War, and some would say, of course, before, with feelings of abolition of slavery, spurring way before the war. And of course, they later became known to support big business industrialists. Now, what has time proven over the course of these political parties? Well, you see, parties became entrenched in certain policy ideals and initiatives, and the way that these parties acted on these ideals and initiatives shows us and tells us what they value. And in a way, it also shows us and tells us about the people who were put in government too. So the legacy of understanding political parties helps us to understand more about the results that came from these policies and these precedents and these stereotypes over time that give us the modern day Democrat and the modern day Republican. So there you go. There's the first question for the first half of the cycle. Let's go to the second question here. From Thursday and Friday from 11:19 and 11:20. What are some key characteristics regarding third parties in American politics? So for this lesson, we looked at third parties in America, and we looked at the way that they shape our political process. Let's go ahead and look over the answer right now. So what role do third parties play? Well, third parties are minor parties in our political system, and they can in many ways be defined as just not being one of the major two political parties. So for the future, when I say third parties, of course, I'm not referring to Democrats or Republicans, and you'll see a big list of third parties that exist later on throughout this particular lesson. Now, third parties actually serve a function. In fact, they take on different roles to challenge the two main parties in place. They might, of course, put forth different types of ideas to be turned into policies, to be, consummated into legislation or laws. And so in many ways, another function that they serve is that they offer new and refreshing ideas on how to solve the issues of today and to turn them into solutions for tomorrow. And so these new ideas in many ways might seem bold and profound, but many people, of course, gravitate to them. Now, the candidates of third parties are also just as important, in my opinion, as anything. They might be lesser known than the other two main party candidates, but they often try to gain traction and popularity for their party based off of their ideas. And sometimes you might hear about these ideas in today's day and age, whether it be on social media or, of course, broadcast media, but they do try to get good attention to their campaigns. Of course, they try to mobilize their supporters as well. Support of third-party candidates is really important because in many ways, they don't have the same chances of winning nationally anyway as the two major parties of our nation. Now, there are some controversies of third parties, let me be honest with you, and the fact is that many people say that they spoil elections and they ruin the voting process. And some naysayers might even say that they take away voters or votes from the two main political parties. Although there's some truth to that, the fact is that the lasting legacy of third parties in America shows us and tells us that although they are present in government today, and although they seldom ever win national elections at the big level of government, they still matter because many people are very much so enticed to join third parties and to vote for third parties in our elections in the United States. Who knows? Maybe you might be a third party voter in the future, and or of course, know people who vote third party today. So thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and please remember to fully complete your warm-ups accordingly and to submit them on the post on Google Classroom. Thank you very much, and good luck at completing both the lesson and the warm-up packet.